Are you well? Try and get this. Oh, goodness me. Okay. I pull the what's left of the stand back towards me so I can ensure that what I'm recording is in shot, and then I keep bumping the stand. And now I can hear flies, and that's going to bug the life out of me. There must be something. I haven't taken my garbage out this morning. I take it out every morning or the flies come. That's why they're there. And I tell you what, there's not much in it. There's basically just veggie scraps from dinner last night, that's all. Blinking flies. I can't think of anything else that's in it. Got a couple of things today. I thought I want to go over a couple of things with the basting shortly. I thought I would draw. I went through the video this morning, 3 o'clock this morning. I didn't have a good sleep night last night, so I've been up and down, tried all my tools and techniques to get back to sleep, and it didn't work, so I did some stitching. I sat in bed and did some stitching. And so I ended up, didn't get to sleep till 8 o'clock this morning, and then I woke up at 10:30. But anyway, that's okay, that happens. I got this finished, but we'll come back to that. Just waiting for this car to go past. I'm just going to open my drink. Excuse me, you'll hear a... Goodness gracious. I have a mineral water today. I like to have one out here when I'm doing the video. Just a bit of a treat while I'm doing this instead of my water or coffee. So I thought what we'd do to start with today is some hand Pilates, because I don't know about you, but I keep forgetting to care for all parts of my body. I've been concentrating on my, I've been doing my not aquarobics, hydrotherapy and physiotherapy and exercise physiology and all that. I've been concentrating on strengthening my body and my core and my legs and you know, my heart and all that sort of stuff. But I've been neglecting other things, and one of those other things I've been neglecting are my hands. And because, like you probably are, we do a lot of stitching or knitting or spinning or working with our hands, sometimes we probably should be doing some short exercises each day. I prefer to do mine at the end of the day as a bit of a wind down, but we'll do them now before we start as a bit of a warm up. I don't know about you, most of us my age have arthritis or sore, stiff hands. So we're just going to start off today with some dynamic spider fingers. And to do that, we go like this. We touch all our fingers and we just push against gently, just to stretch all those ligaments in our fingers and our hands, and then slowly come back. And we'll do that, we'll only do it 5 or 6 times today because I don't want to take up the whole recording with finger exercises. So there's 2, 3. You can do them as quickly or as slowly as you wish. I like to do them quite gently so I'm not jarring my body. There we go, crack. That wasn't meant to happen. 4, 5, 6. Okay, now don't know about you, but that's a bit tender. Now we're going to do a hook, and to do that we're going to hold our hands this way. I might remove that so you can see a bit better. And we're going to try and hook just the top. It's very challenging, I can't really do it. Just the top of our knuckles. So we just want to work this, primarily this joint, and then this joint's going to come in anyway because it's hard not to, unless you can do that. And that's not exactly comfortable, and I can only do it with one finger. So we want to hook the top of our fingers and then just hold that briefly, and then we're going to hook in to make a fist, and then bring our thumbs in and try and don't squeeze really tight, like we're not tensing up, but you want to feel those muscles and tendons getting a good stretch. Now we're going to reverse it, bring our thumbs out, come halfway, and then straighten the fingers out gently. Do that again. 2, reverse it, 3, reverse it, 4, reverse it, 5, there we go, there's that one done. Just give it a bit of a shake, not too much. We don't want to get overexcited yet. Shake those fingers out a little bit. Try and get some blood running to the tips of your fingers. Okay, now this one's a little bit of a challenge for me anyway. We're going to do that hook again, but we're going to put our palms flat on the table, and then what we want to try and do is flatten our palms to the bench top. So we're trying to gently push our palms down onto the bench, hold it there for a second or two, and then we're going to straighten them out and have a stretch. Come back into a hook, push down on the bench and straighten out and stretch. Back into a hook, push the palms down onto the bench and then straighten out and stretch. Back into a hook, push your palms down onto the bench and then straighten out and relax. I think we're up to 3. Come into a hook, push your palms onto the bench and then straighten out into a stretch. Come into a hook, push your palms onto the bench and then straighten out into a stretch. I think that will do for now with that one. I've lost count, sorry. Okay, we're going to do another hook. This time we're hooking our fingers again. It's okay, it's next door. It's okay. Willow, please. It's okay. We're going to do the hook again. Willow, go on your bed. Hey, on your bed, please. On your bed. Go and lay down. On your bed, please. Then we're going to hook our fingers into each other like this and gently pull against each other. See if you can feel that pulling through your fingers, through your palms, up your arms, and I can actually feel it in my shoulders. Then we're going to release gently and switch around. That's enough, please. I'm talking to the people now. Please go and lay down. Now do that again. We're pulling gently against our hands and then release gently and flip around. And again, pulling against each hand, hooking those fingers into each other, feeling that in your fingers, in your palms, up the back of your hands, up your forearms and across the back of your shoulders, and release, flip over again, pulling again, feeling that in your fingers, in the palms of your hands, up the back of your hands, into your wrist, and then up the back of your shoulders. And again, pulling against each other. Feel that pulling all the way up into the back of your shoulders, and once more pulling, and feel that pull. Okay, now relax, give a bit of a shake, a little bit of a shake. Now this is the last one we're going to do. We're going to do some finger spreads. Stretch out as far as you can, give a good stretch, and then interlock your fingers into a clasp and give a gentle squeeze and feel those muscles and ligaments stretching again. Can you please stop yelling at people? That's enough. Stretch those fingers out again. Stretch as far as you can. Nice and stretching. Feel those ligaments and muscles, and then interlock your fingers. A nice firm clasp where you can feel all those ligaments stretching. And again, stretch out your fingers, stretch them out as far as you can. Be gentle with yourself. If it's painful, don't stretch too far. I can feel some discomfort in mine, but I know that I can feel that it's my ligaments stretching. I do have arthritis, I do have sore joints, but it's not my joints hurting. I can recognize that. So I'm quite confident that it's okay for me to gently stretch those ligaments and muscles. If you feel any pain that you're not familiar with, don't push yourself. And one more, stretching your fingers out as far as you can. I can feel that stretching all through here as well. And then come back into the finger lock, into a clasp, nice and firmly, and then relax. Give a bit of a shake. Going to do one more, and we're just going to gently pull our fingers up towards us so we can feel those ligaments stretching all the way through here. Just gently pulling them towards you as far as you can. Don't hurt yourself. If you're not as flexible, don't do it. I can feel that pulling all the way through here, all the way up into here. So I'm just gently pulling towards my body, feeling that stretch. And the more I relax, every time I breathe out, on the exhale, my body's relaxing a little bit more, and I can put a tiny bit more pressure on there. And swap, do your other wrist very gently. Remember, don't hurt yourself. Just see if you can feel that stretching, gentle stretching. Just give it a few seconds so your body can begin to relax on the exhale, and you can pull it a little bit tighter if you wish to do so. And relax. Shake it out. Shake your hands sideways like this. Just shake, shake, shake gently, not too hard. We don't want to injure ourselves. We just want to get the blood flowing into our fingertips. Now we're going to shake in this direction. Shake it out. Gently shake it out. And then that's it for today. Now I'm just rolling my shoulders back because I've just noticed while I was doing that I was hunching over. So I'm standing up straight with my feet slightly apart in line with my shoulders. I'm trying to straighten my spine. I'm imagining a rod running through my head, through my neck, down my spine, through my hips and down my legs. So imagining that rod is helping me straighten up. Lift my chin up so my neck's nice and straight. Roll my shoulders back because I'm hunching. Roll them back a couple of times. Take a couple of deep breaths. We'll do that together. Breathe in through the nose and out through the mouth. Each time you breathe in through the nose and out through the mouth. Each time you breathe in, see if you can extend that breath a little bit further. So we're going to go in again and out, extend that a little bit further than the last one. In through the nose and out through the mouth. One more. In through the nose and out through the mouth. And that's it. We've done a lot today. That's a good start. That's just going to help us. If you're anything like me, I can sit for hours and stitch, and it's not good for our bodies. When I was teaching, I used to get my students to stand up and move around every hour, at least every hour. Sometimes I'd do it every half an hour, but sometimes, depending on what class we were doing, I'd stretch it out to every hour. Even if they just stood up from their workbench and walked around the table once or twice and sat back down again. Obviously you can do some stretching, go and get a drink, go to the toilet, but don't do what I do and sit there for hours on end and hurt your body. Right, now that we've done that, I want to come back to the basting we did yesterday. So I showed you these ones. I finished this one this morning. I finished the stitching. It's not, you can see, even though I've drawn those lines, it's not the straightest knitching, goodness me. It's not the straightest stitching. It is, how can I put it? The lines are still sort of running straight, but my stitches tend to zigzag a little bit sometimes. I have finished the stitching, the running stitch. Now some people call this, and I must admit I did it yesterday, I called it kantha stitch or sashiko stitch. It's actually all running stitch, but kantha and sashiko are different types of embroidery that utilize running stitch. That's something I'd like to correct myself in. Excuse me, I know that, I knew that, but I had not clarified that in my description yesterday. Kantha stitch is I should have double checked this because I'm doubting myself now. Kantha embroidery is, I believe, an Indian style embroidery that utilizes primarily running stitch. Now you might be familiar with the kantha quilts that are quite common these days. They're beautiful layered quilts, often made with recycled sari fabric, and they just have running stitch all over them like that. That's where the kantha comes from. If you go into a bit of a deep dive on kantha embroidery, you will find some incredible detailed imaging, borders and beautiful banners and things that have been done using running stitch that is a kantha style embroidery. Sashiko, if you're not aware, is a Japanese embroidery. Sashiko is a bit different. And I still haven't entirely grasped the whole aesthetic of sashiko. I had spoken to a Japanese lady some time ago about sashiko, and she was distressed because people like me, you were using the term sashiko and doing what we were calling sashiko stitching and embroidery, and to her it was offensive because that was her tradition. That was something that had been passed down through her family, and I'm starting to understand it now after speaking to her. Sashiko was originally developed many hundreds of years ago out of necessity, from what I understand. And I may be wrong, but from what I understand, in Japan it gets quite cold, and of course hundreds of years ago there wouldn't have been much textiles around, and so they would have had to repair and recycle a lot. And that's where I believe, from my understanding, sashiko originally came in. They would have a damaged garment, or they would use it to layer up textiles to thicken them to make them warm. And then when they wore, they would do more layers like we see today where we use sashiko for visible mending. They would do it years ago traditionally to repair, and they'd put layer and layer and layer. And if you've done any of this type of running stitch, you would know that just doing this strengthens that fabric straight away. And that's what they did it for. And I remember some years ago, I went to one of the craft shows, and there was a Japanese fellow there selling his silk kimonos and other textiles. And he had on display I think it was nearly 200-year-old jacket. That wasn't called a jacket, and I apologize for not remembering what it was called. But it was in a jacket structure. But it was a firefighter's uniform, and it was so heavy because it was layers and layers and layers of textiles, and they'd repaired it and stitched it. It was absolutely gorgeous. But that reminds me of that every time. So I'm going off track here, though. I'm just trying to offer as much information as I can. So when I mentioned yesterday in my previous video that one of the reasons I do the basting is to minimize the fabric movement while I'm stitching and to minimize it warping, I want to show you this. As you would have seen, I basted this. I have basted it quite tightly. I have since removed all those basting stitches because I've finished my running stitches, my rows of running stitches. But I don't know if you can see it through the monitor there. It's a bit hard to tell. That fabric has still warped and twisted. That top piece, that printed piece, it was cut square to size. But if you can see now, this slightly bows out on this side. It sucks in here. It sucks in here. And it sucks in here. So imagine how that would have looked if I hadn't basted the way I did. It would have been more exaggerated. So what I also wanted to do, as I went over my video this morning that I had done yesterday, I realized that you couldn't actually clearly see where I had stitched those basting stitches. So I thought I would just do a bit of a diagram. So what I encouraged you to do yesterday was fold your fabric in half in both directions and find the center of the textile. Okay, and I put a mark on mine with a friction pen that would iron out. Then I was explaining that to do correct basting, you have your knotted thread and you come in from the center and you do your stitches outwards towards the edge from the center. And then do your holding stitches, and then you come back, do another knot here, and then again work out your tacking stitches towards the outside. Do your tacking stitches there, snip it off. Then we'll come back, so maybe I should go first, second, tie another knot. We start here in the center again and we work our tacking stitches in this direction. Do our holding stitches there. This is our third direction. Again, our knots here in the center and we work outwards. do our holding stitches. From here, I'd put a knot here, for example. It doesn't have to be in this order. You don't have to go this direction first. You could reverse that. I would then go to here and a knot here, and then start our tacking stitches outwards, and then our holding stitches there, snip it off. Then I would do the diagonal. So this is 5 here. I don't know where to fit all this. This is number 6, and then work outwards. Then we would go number 7 and work outwards. Our holding stitches. Then we would put another knot here, number 8, and work outwards. Now you might have noticed I've done the diagonal here. That was very deliberate. I found if I do both the next rows on the outside, my fabric tends to warp a bit more. So if I do the diagonal, it helps balance it out a bit. And look, to be honest, on a piece of fabric the size that I'm working on here, it's not going to be very noticeable. If you're doing something larger, that's when you begin to notice it. And again, this is not necessary. You could use iron-on pellin or iron-on. I've been using the word pellin as well. In the last video I said pellin quite a lot. What I meant is wadding or batting. Pellin is actually a brand name if you don't already know. So if you're wondering what on earth I'm talking about some wadding. Okay? So if you iron your working fabric onto an iron-on wadding, you won't have to do this. And you know, you might not want to do this, you might not. I like to do this because I like my final result nice and neat. So then you can either start going in this direction or continue going along this direction. And yes, as I said yesterday, it is time consuming. It is laborious, but I've found it can be very time saving. If I don't do this, I will often end up with buckled fabric. I will end up with my needle caught where I don't want it. And then there's the whole, you have to unpick it. While you're unpicking, you damage your fabric. Sometimes you cut bits you don't want to cut. So instead of all that, in the long run, where I think I might be saving time, in the long run it turns out I'm not. So then I also wanted to show you, if you had a round or an oval piece of fabric that you wanted to baste, again, I would fold it in half and find the center. And I would put my knot in the center and I would stitch outwards towards the edge, and then put my next knot here and stitch outwards towards the edge. So we'll go 1, 2, and then I would come in the center again and stitch outwards. I would quarter it then. And then the opposite. Then I would go this direction. And then the opposite of that. And then this quarter, or it's actually 1/8, isn't it? And then opposite that. and then I would come the opposite. Always try and do the opposite. Have I lost some numbers? Have I missed some numbers? I didn't think I should have that many. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 11. I have, where's 12? 11, 12. 13, 14, 15, 16. I skipped a couple of numbers there, I think. There we go. So that's how I would do a circle. I hope that's as clear as mud, and I hope that helps. Again, if you have any questions on that, please don't hesitate to drop them in the comments below, and I will address them in the next video, if I'm able to. Okay, now what I want to do is trim this little number. Oh, actually, I wanted to talk briefly again about this running stitch. Yesterday I showed you a couple of different ways you could do it. I showed you the more traditional Japanese method, sashiko style, where you pick up, you weave your needle in and out of the fabric like such, like this. It's hard to see on my monitor, isn't it? And then pull the needle through, and I've just done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stitches in one go. Okay, that's one method of doing your running stitch. I don't like that method personally because I don't feel I can get it consistent, although that little demo I've just done is one of the neatest bits I've done yet. The second way to do it is pick up one stitch at a time. This method for me, I tend to end up with longer stitches than what I would prefer. So I often just do mine like this. So I go in at the top, pull it out at the back, and then come up from the back. So I'm doing every single individual stitch one at a time. Now, what I wanted to say about that is, if you have a go at this, I'd like you to have a go, even if you do it on a piece of scrap cloth or a doodle cloth, have a go at doing that original, that first stitch that I wove it all on the needle with, and feel the texture. Then feel the texture of the stitches when I do each stitch at a time, and then feel the texture when I go up, down, up, down. What happens is this first stitch, when I'm weaving the needle in and out and do quite a few at once, the stitches end up being quite flat on your fabric. They almost blend in. They're not as easy to feel. They sort of just slide over very gently over that fabric. The next one, if I'm picking up one at a time, you start to feel them raised up a little bit, not too much, but they're a little bit more pronounced than these first ones we did. Whereas this last stitch, if you're doing it this way, where you do one tiny little stitch at a time, the stitches are very pronounced. It's very tactile, it's very bumpy, and that's another reason I like to do it like this, because I like that tactile texture. So that's something else I just wanted to point out that I forgot to mention yesterday. Something to be mindful of. Some of you probably wouldn't even care. It's not on your radar. You just want to get the stitches done. Some people aren't concerned if they're not straight. Some people aren't concerned if they're not consistent in size. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But I thought I would just share as many little tips and tricks and things that I've picked up over the years as I can to give you options. And sometimes learning these little tips and tricks and techniques make what you're doing a lot easier as well. Okay, so that's the one I started in the video yesterday. I drew the lines. That's the Sanderson. I haven't finished the bark cloth either, but I have finished this bit. So what I thought we would do is get out our mat. And what have I done with my rule? Just had it. It's right there. I just kept missing it when I went to pick it up. Now what I want to do here is just square this off. When you're squaring it off again after you've stitched it, just be mindful to try not to trim those running stitches you've just stitched, or they might come undone. You want to try not to trim them if you can avoid it. So as I said, this piece of printed fabric was square when I began yesterday. It is not at all square today after I've stitched it. It's very warped actually. Now we can expect that because those stitches of course are going to draw that fabric in, and that's when I said make it a fraction larger than what you want the finished size to be. Probably at least a 1/4 inch larger all the way round, I would say. I'm not quite on top of this, so I'm not sure how square I am cutting this. And remember, if you're using one of these rotary cutters, every time you've made a cut, you should cover your blade again, because you never know if it might get knocked off the table or something and chop someone's toe off. Doesn't matter what kind you've got, just make sure you try and remember to cover that blade every time. I get slack. I often lock mine off because I get lazy, but try and remember to do that. The other little tip, which you probably already know, but I'm going to mention it just in case. When you do cut, oh, this is challenging to get square. Always cut away from your body. Always. I've seen some people cutting in towards them, and that's just not good. Apart from the fact it's not safe, it's not actually ergonomic. It goes against the movement that your body wants to do. I've actually trimmed some of those stitches off with that last cut. Okay. So I've squared that off now. Next thing, if you remember yesterday, if you've seen the previous video, I was talking about thinking about what you want to put inside your needlebook. So I will most likely line this with a piece of wool. I'm even starting to think I might like to put something on the front. Where is that? I tried to be nice and prepared. Of course, that's not wide enough, that piece of doctor's flannel. Why would it be? Goodness gracious. That's okay, we've got something else. I thought I had some orange wool blanketing, but I can't find it. That might be the one that the dog's using actually. So if that's the case, I won't be using that. I've got some blue wool suiting. This is some vintage suiting that was my grandmother's. I don't think I want blue in with the orange. I've got pink. As much as I like the pink with the orange, I'd want to save the pink for some of the pink ones that I've got, that I'm doing. I've got the green blanketing, but as I mentioned yesterday, I think it's too chunky. This is a felted wool blanket and it's quite chunky. So I don't want to use that as my lining. So I think I would have arrived back at possibly doctor's flannel. I do have some coloured felt though, wool felt. There's a lovely piece of wool. That's not doctor's flannel, but it is a piece of wool, and it has, this one has mohair or angora in it. It's not quite wide enough. That's a bit of a bugger. It's not far off it, but it's not quite wide enough. It's a beautiful fabric, that. Absolutely gorgeous. It's so soft. So I do have, as I mentioned, somewhere I have some wool felt. I've got 2 bags here because I'm actually outside my house. I'm out on my veranda and I bring everything out here to do the videos, so I try to have everything that I think I'm going to need. And then once I've finished the videos, I pack it all up and take it back inside every day, which is exhausting. But you guys can see better if I do them out here. It's, don't know what the weather's like where you are today, but here it is the warmest, most humid day we've had all spring. It's very warm. It was just over 30 degrees when I looked earlier. 30 degrees Celsius, but it's very humid. I'm finding all these bits and pieces that I might want to use in this, and I'm running out of room on the table to put them. They're all going to fall down in a pile now. Ah, here's the wool felt. Okay, I knew I had it. I apologise for not being more prepared. Okay, now I don't have a piece of orange felt. I've got red, I've got brown. That brown might work. I've got a nice green there. I wanted that green for something else, didn't I? You know what? They're not blinking wide enough either. That's a bugger. That looks like it's going to be doctor's flannel, whether I want it to be or not. That green would have looked good, I think. I like that. wonder if there's a way I can use that still with that gap there. I don't think it's going to work. Okay, so instead of that, go away, fly. The flies are coming in now. Here's some doctor's flannel. That's going to be the answer, I think. Now, I'm going to probably drive you all bananas by what I'm going to say next, but I'm going to baste that on. I'm going to baste that doctor's flannel onto this because it's not square. And if I'm going to stitch that, I want it to stay, so I'm going to baste it again. It's in here. Back to our, oh, my tower of fabric had just leaned over. My inexpensive machine cotton that I don't mind using for my basting. A needle, that's a big one. It's a bit big. That's better. Now this is already threaded. It's the same thread, so I'll just start with that. And again, start with my knot. This is going to be a bit tricky because I want to flip this over, and the reason is this doctor's flannel is lighter than that stitched piece I have on the back, so it's going to be easier to control. If I do it in this direction, it's going to have more of a tendency for this top to move around on the doctor's flannel as I'm stitching. The problem is, when I flip it over, I can't see if the edges have moved. So should I, no, I need to do it this way or that doctor's flannel is going to screw up a bit. So making sure it's just, the edge is just over. Smooth it out, and again I want to roughly find the center. So there's a spot there, there's a line running through there, and then in this direction, and I'm really mainly folding the flannel, but I'm using the stitched piece as my guideline. So about here is the center, as long as that flannel doesn't move. And we start again, just like we did last time. I'm picking this up, but I'm trying to make sure that I'm smoothing that as I go, because if I just pick it up like this and stitch, it's going to scrunch up, even though it might not look like it, and I'm not going to get a nice smooth application. Now I can feel I'm near the edge here, so I'm now going to do a holding stitch. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to trim that off. I just had those blinking scissors. Where did they go? Oh, I didn't just have them. Snip it off. We want another knot. And we go again from the center in the opposite direction. Just some nice smooth tack-in stitches, again approximately 1/2 inch. Now I've just noticed I was waiting for that car to go again. I'm just doing a holding stitch. I've just noticed as I've come in this direction that doctor's flannel, that piece underneath is just peeking out. So I'm just smoothing it a little bit, encouraging it to make sure it's covered. I've done that holding stitch there so I can snip that off. Another knot. Again from the center, working outwards. Holding stitch. 1, 2, 3. Another knot. Might just have enough thread left to do this. 4th. Another knot, and in the opposite direction from the center. And I'm picking up to feel that I'm picking up all of that at the back, making sure I've got it all as I go, but still ensuring this is smoothed down. Now that's just come out of the needle. Now in theory, I probably should have pressed this wool again so I didn't have these creases here. It would have been a lot easier, especially if it was on top of that piece. I need to just thread that again and try and get that holding stitch in, not that it matters too much. I haven't got my glasses on. So I think I keep missing the eye of that needle there. Oh, fiddlesticks. Okay, we'll pretend we've done that holding stitch, okay? So now, hopefully you can see I've done the cross from the center outwards in each direction. I'll get some more thread. Now you might be wondering why I haven't trimmed the doctor's flannel to size yet. And the reason I haven't is because if I trim it to size now, before I baste this down, I can guarantee you by the time it's basted, it is going to pull in and it will be too small for the size we need. So I'm not going to cut it to size yet. And I'm going to now do some more, again from the center. There's one of my hairs, you don't want to see that. And still, as I'm going, gently pulling that out to try and make sure it's all flat and even. There's no folds, no buckles, no puckers or anything, or there's minimal puckers. See, that's lifted a little bit because I wasn't careful. I had a little bit of a hump. Okay, now I've got doing a holding stitch. Now some of my friends see me do all these processes, all these steps, and they shake their head and they tell me that's not necessary. Why do you go to so much trouble? And then when I show them the finished product, they say, how did you get it so neat? How come you've got that so aligned? How come? This is why. Because I put the work in the beginning. And if I'm going to be selling these, which is the aim, I usually do sell stuff I make. I think about, if I was buying this, if I was the buyer, how would I expect that end product to look? And I would expect good quality workmanship. So that's what I try and give. Again, it's not perfect. It will never be perfect if it's handmade, although I do know some people that I cannot fault their work. It's absolutely exquisite. But I also had a friend tell me once that she was referring to my spinning. I was spinning some wool. And can you please start yelling at the neighbours? It's not... Willow, on your bed, please. This barking that she's doing has only been going on for the last 4 days. She doesn't normally bark at people like this. And I'm struggling to cope with this barking. It's out of character. Can you please lay on your bed? Go and lay down. It's out of character and it's really starting to stress me. There are people next door. The house next door has been empty for months. They renovated it and she had a meltdown while they were renovating. And I think that's because the previous tenants were very aggressive and violent and they really traumatized her. So when the owners came in to repair the property, she had a meltdown. And then they finished and it was quiet for a few weeks, and then the realtors came in to sell the property and she had a meltdown while the people were coming to inspect the property. And now that I believe, I'm not sure, it looks like the new owner is either going to renovate, rebuild, knock down something. There's been contractors coming again and she's not coping with that. On the other side's fine. It's just this side where the loud, aggressive, violent people used to be that she struggles with. Okay, now this time I've done my middle this way. This time with the wool, I'm just going to go outwards all the way down. I'm not sure why, I just feel like it's going to sit better with this wool if I do that. So I'm not going to go this way, this way, this way, this way. I've done this way down the centre to stabilise it. Now I'm just going to go outwards all the way. It's hard for me to explain why. You can sort of see the way the fabric wants to behave. Because this is a different fabric, I guess it's a little bit sturdier. I can see it's not going to have that tendency to want to twist like the flannel wanted to. I'm still a bit concerned. You can see here it's pulling away from this edge a bit. And that's not what I wanted. Sorry, I'm just sighing at the people next door, the contractors. Some of the contractors seem to be a bit disrespectful. There was one here a couple of months ago, contractors that were doing the garden, and they poisoned my lawn. They poisoned half of my lawn. I'm sure it wasn't deliberate, but they were careless. They just didn't even take the time to... If they had come around to my side of the property to spray what they wanted to spray on the fence, they wouldn't have killed my lawn. But anyway, that frustrated me a bit. I still haven't got it back growing. I'd put a lot of time and effort into it. But that's okay. We're looking for glimmers instead of frustrations today. Talking about that, I noticed this morning before I came out to do this reel, I was feeling so frustrated, not just with myself, but with just things, silly little things like the last couple of days I've been dropping jars on my feet, or knocking things out of the fridge onto the floor, or dropping my whole cup of coffee, or just silly little things like that. And I think it's just because I'm so tired and fatigued at the moment. And I just kept thinking to myself, oh, I'm so frustrated. Oh, I'm so frustrated with this. Oh my goodness. So then I came out and started looking for little glimmers, things to be thankful for. So I was watching, and again, I was arguing in my head a bit. When I did that, I came out and there are butterflies everywhere, but they're cabbage moths. So at first my brain was going, oh, look at the pretty butterflies, aren't they lovely? And I was enjoying those, and I thought, there's a little glimmer, something sparkly in my day, something to give me a little warm, fuzzy feeling for a second or so. And then my brain switched to, they're the bloody caterpillar moths, and they're the ones that are eating all my vegetables. And so then I had to try and switch back to, oh, but look at the pretty flowers, my garden's flowering. And then I noticed that since last night, half of my pansies have died for some reason. So I got frustrated again. So I tried to switch my thinking again, and I came back in and started to do this instead. Goodness me. Let me know in the comments, what's a glimmer that you have found or noticed today? A glimmer is something that grabs your attention for a split second and makes you smile or warms your heart or something. Something little. It could be as simple as, you know, noticing the raindrops on a spider's web. Something like that. Let me know in the comments if something that you have noticed today that has given you a glimmer. I have noticed a nice warm temperature today. It's a lovely day today. The sun's out, the birds are singing or screaming. It's nice and warm. What else? I mean, I do get into a habit sometimes where I just start to notice them automatically. But if you're not used to doing it, it can be a bit hard to get started. Another little technique, if you're not aware of, is looking for something each day that you're grateful for. And again, that could be something simple. Could be something as simple as, I'm grateful that I have a warm bed to sleep in at night. Oh, now there's a lovely cool breeze. It's a warm, cool breeze, if that makes sense. I used to start off, when I first started the gratefulness journey, to shift my thought process and my attitude many years ago. I had a terrible attitude and I didn't know how to get out of it. And I started doing Not Disturb, I apologise. So I started off with simple things. Lucky number, that's a good one. You noticed a lucky number. I actually noticed a lucky number the other day. I don't remember what it was now, but I saw the same number about 6 or 7 times in the space of about 3 hours. I don't remember what it was now though. So yes, when I started learning how to be grateful, I started with a really bad attitude, and because I couldn't see anything at the time to be grateful for, and I don't think I wholly understood the concept. This is some years ago now, and I still remember the first time I started practicing. Okay, see, this is pulled in down this edge now. I probably should have pinned it. So yeah, when I first started, the first day, I still remember for some reason, some 15, 18 years ago, I really struggled at that time to find anything to be grateful for. All I could see were things that were challenges, hurdles, obstacles, things that were hurting me, making my life more difficult or whatever. So someone suggested to me at the time to just speak out something each day, one thing a day to start with, because I was really stuck. And I still couldn't do that. So they said to me, just say something, whether you believe it or not, and your feelings will follow. And I thought, oh, this is ridiculous. So I started doing it, and I remember the first week, every time I said something, it was usually the same thing because I struggled to move past. I just really struggled to find anything to be grateful for. But I remember gritting my teeth and clenching my jaw and saying something like, I'm grateful I have a bed to sleep in tonight. But it was more like, I'm grateful that I have a bed. It was like that for the first week. It was dreadful. I was dreadful. I could not see anything. Absolutely, it's hard. I agree. And I think that's why Stephanie's just said it's hard to be grateful each day. And absolutely, and that's why I try to practice this every day now. Because if I don't practice every day, I just start to see the negatives everywhere. And it affects my health. And then that's a roll-on effect, and it affects my loved ones as well. So personally, I try and practice every day to find something to be grateful for. I try to get out in nature every day, even if it's just in my garden. I've been planting flowers because flowers always make me smile, if they're flowers I like, of course. I've got pansies and different coloured nasturtiums, and what else have I got at the moment? I've got fruit trees that are fruiting. I've got lots of herbs in. So they make me smile. Doing this sort of stuff, I'm grateful for. For me, personally, I got rid of my television. If I was seeing the news every day, I was a mess. I would cry my eyes out every day just because I'd seen the news. And I ended up getting so depressed and so heartbroken, and I felt so helpless that I got rid of my TV. I couldn't cope with it anymore. So in some ways, I've become very ignorant to current events, but I've had to do that for my own health. I live in my own little bubble, really. I find out news that I need to find out, if I used to panic at first and think, how am I going to find out the news that I need to know? I need to know what's going on. I don't. And if it's that important, I'll find out somehow. Someone will let me know. It's no big deal. And I can tell you what, personally, I'm much happier not watching the news every day. So yes, finding some glimmers in my day every day has been very helpful. I will try and find, if you haven't heard of glimmers and glows, I'll try and find the definition and have it next time so I can read it out. I sort of know in my mind what it is, but putting it into words for you guys, I can't quite do it on my own yet. So, of course, I'm still basting this doctor's flannel to this Needlebook cover. And I need to remember to mention I've basted this on, but if we want to sew something onto the outside of the cover, we want to try and do that before we stitch this lining in. Otherwise, we're going to see the stitches over the lining, and we don't want to see those stitches. So if I want to sew on some Suffolk puffs or a piece of lace or a doily or something on the front cover, we want to stitch that on before. We don't want to see the stitches through this doctor's flannel. I probably should have done that before I've basted this on, but sometimes I do things a bit backwards because it helps me visualize where I'm going to place things. It would be a lot easier to stitch those things on first, absolutely, but I do this funny little technique now where I sort of don't stitch all the way through if necessary. Shouldn't be much more to do, I don't think. Okay, we should get away with one more. We should be done. Gee, it's getting warm out here. Yesterday, the day before, I had jumpers on. I was rugged up. I even went in to get a scarf. I was freezing. And today, it's very warm. Very humid, actually. Hasn't been humid here for a while. I might have to get another one in there. It's not quite to the edge yet. Goodness me, my feet are hurting. Okay, so as you can see here, I think I want to do another stitch all the way around the edge too, just to secure it into place. As you can see here, that shifted quite a bit from when I started. So this edge is peeking over a little bit. This edge is peeking over a little bit. So what I want to do now, I will trim it, but I'm going to give it a little bit of a like 1/4 inch allowance or something, because that will pull in a fraction more as we work. Now we've got to think about what do we want it. See, that's rolled up. That's another. Since I've trimmed that off, that weight's not holding that bit down because I didn't press it. So that wants to curl up. So that's another reason I want to put another running stitch right around that edge. That should fix that. What we need to do now is think about do we want to sew anything onto the cover? Do we want to put some yo-yos? I'm not fussed on that, to be honest. I'm not overly fussed on that. Could put some yo-yos on. We could put some where did that one go? That purple doesn't look bad on the orange, does it? quite like that. It's not very big though. Sometimes I pick something up and go, yep, that works, that's it, I like that. And then other times it's like, no, doesn't work, no, doesn't work, no, doesn't work. And that frustrates the snot out of me. That might work though. A crocheted medallion, maybe. I think it's a bit big for that size. All this bloody noise again. It's not nice and square, is it? Think outside the square too. You know, what else do you have? Where is there unusual placements you can do? You know, maybe something like that. But then if I do that, do I want it to stay like that over both sides? Do I want to put something on the inside as a pocket? A piece of lace down here, for example, and then use that as a pocket? Or do I want to put something across the bottom? So if I want to put something in here, I'm going to want to stitch that down as I do the blanket stitch to hold it all together, so it's all done in one piece. So I'm thinking maybe, I don't know, but maybe something like that. Does that even work with that? I don't think it's too bad actually. Now this is an old vintage Sheridan sheet, so that's the top of the sheet, it's already sewn. So I should be able to just stitch that into that like that. I might do that on that one, I think. I still haven't worked out what I want to put on the front. I think it needs something. It needs some character or detail or something. What do I have in here? This poor thing's so worn, it's falling apart. Okay, what about, I don't know if this will work, but I'm having an idea. Maybe not, because there's not enough there. I just saw that scalloped edge and I thought I could stick that in between the cover and the lining as a feature, but there's not enough there. Don't want to cut that. Don't know about that. That came in a kit from Beck. Don't know what I think about it though. I think I'm struggling with it because I think there's too much white. I'm wondering if I cut it in a bit tighter, if it would look a bit better. Don't know, I'm still not convinced. Pink. Bit of green felt. So I might leave you guys here because I could be here for hours trying to make a decision on what to put on here. But we've done a little bit more since last time. So I want you to think about, if you're following along, I want you to think about what you want to put on the cover. If you want to put anything on the cover, on the front or the back, it's probably best to stitch all that on before you do the lining. You don't have to have a wool lining. You can have fabric, you can have whatever you want. But you're going to be best to stitch your details on the cover before you do your lining. So make that your next step, and then baste your lining on after you've stitched everything on. It will be much easier. I should have thought of that. As I said, I often do things backwards. I will do this and I'll just tack it and not go all the way through, or I'll lift that side and tack it back down, or something silly like that. I'm giving myself extra work because I wasn't thinking clearly. But we might leave it at that today because we've already close to an hour and a half again, and that should give you something else to work with until next time. And again, I've been saying this a bit lately, I don't know if I will get to do a video tomorrow. I've got hydrotherapy and physiotherapy and exercise physiology and whatnot again tomorrow, so that takes a few hours and it usually wipes me out. If I get it done, that's great. If not, it won't be until another day or two. And I need to get my lawn done as well. I've been a bit slack on my lawn and a couple of other things. So I'm going to say goodbye, guys, for now. I thank you once again for joining me. I hope you've learned something again today. I hope you've enjoyed my ramblings. If you're new to the channel and you haven't hit subscribe yet, I'd love it if you would do that, because I've been limited so far because I'm a new YouTuber, or recently new with the live recording. They'll only allow me to do 50 unless I get more subscribers. So the more subscribers I get, the more content I can share. And the other thing is, I'm just going to drop in the description box a link to my Amazon wish list. Most of you aren't in a position to help, and that's fine. Please don't feel like you need to. I completely understand. But if anyone is in a position to help me out and is willing to help me out, I need a new phone to keep doing these recordings. This phone is in two pieces. The back doesn't stay on any longer. It's very broken. The screen's cracked. It cuts out several times through the day. It only stays charged for a few hours at a time. One of my lenses is shattered, so it doesn't focus well. I could go on and on and on. So it's 5 years old, my phone, my current phone. My ring light stand is broken. It's been held together with gaffer tape. And there's a couple of other things in my wish list that aren't needs, but they're nice little luxuries. If anyone would like to buy them for me or help me out, I think I've set it up so you can send any of those items to me anonymously if you wish to do so. I'll also attach a link for buy me a coffee if you enjoy my content and if you'd like me to continue producing content. If you're in a position to drop me a couple of dollars, you can do that through Buy Me a Coffee, and that will help me to keep doing these videos. So thank you once again. I hope you're having a wonderful day. I hope you get to do some stitching or creativity today, and don't forget to look for a glimmer in your day, and when you find one, tell me what it is in the comments below. I'd love to know what you found, or something that you're grateful for today. And in the meantime, I'm going to say goodbye. Thanks again for joining me, and have a wonderful day.